So I want to talk today about things that are causing me or motivating me, and to the negative and to the positive. And so I'm going to start with some very negative things, and I just feel like we all need to focus, because I'm incredibly focused right now. And then after this really bad part, I promise that we'll go to some really good stuff, and I promise that we will end on a really good note. But just gird your loins. We're going to face reality right now. So this is a report that was put out by the World Bank in just last fall. And the World Bank, a very conservative financial institution. And here's this report: 4 degrees turn down the heat, 4 degrees centigrade, so that's 7 degrees Fahrenheit. And what is 7 degrees Fahrenheit? That is the average global warming we will see by 2100 if every country does everything they promised to do. All the promises we promised to do will be plus 7 degrees Fahrenheit global warming, average global warming. So you think to yourself, like me, what in heck does plus 7 degrees mean? Like, I don't know. So I went and I did some research, and minus 7 degrees Fahrenheit, we were at the last ice age, 35,000 years ago. And perhaps not here in Austin, but throughout the upper part of North America and where I live in Boston, we were under more than a mile of ice. So that was minus 7 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're going forward that amount in 85 years. So it doesn't take thousands of years. We're going to do it in 85. Some of the research I've looked at is not clear that humans can exist at plus 4 degrees centigrade. And when it was minus 4, that was 20 million. Last time it was plus 4 was 20 million years ago. There were no humans. It's going to get a little worse. It turned out when I was reading this report, like, duh, when they talk about plus 7 degrees Fahrenheit, that is globally an average, and over land it's going to be plus 11 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's the prediction for North America in the summer times, will be plus 11 degrees Fahrenheit more than it is now. And again, even one more second worse, that's if everyone did everything they were promising to do. If they don't do everything they're promising to do, we're supposed to hit that by 2060. So I have to say, this really focuses the mind for me. I don't know how long you're intending to live, but I definitely intend to live for another 30 years. And we're not talking about, so if it's by 2060, it's going to be plus 11, which is implausible. It's going to be 2040 when it's really bad. So I am really, really focused on getting this job done. A friend of mine, Brandy from Stanford, he has this great line: you can't solve exponential problems with linear solutions. And we have been looking at this with a linear solution point of view. So now we'll start getting into the good part. So I do a lot of work in business, and I've been paying attention to what's going on. And I want to share with you today a new organizational model that I think is really going to transform how we do business. And this partnership will bring us forward into a new collaborative economy. And this is actually where all of my optimism lies. And I'll describe that optimism to you. So the Peers Incorporated model is that we have, it's a partnership between autonomous individuals in small companies and bigger institutions. And let's discuss. So I figured this out. There's lots of ways to tell the Zipcar story, but the way I want to cast it today is back in 2000 when we launched, there's 3 great things that we did. The first was we built on leveraged excess capacity. And so what is this excess capacity? The old ways of buying cars is that you had to either buy a whole car, the giant thing yourself. It cost you around $8,000 a year on average. This is household survey data, so you might say you don't think that's the case. It's the case, 8,000 on average across the United States. Yet you're only driving it 5% of the time. Like, how incredible is that? It's the second most expensive thing you own. It sits idle 95% of the time, but that's the way you had to buy it. Or you could choose to do a rental car in these 24-hour bundles, even though you really wanted it for 26 hours or 2 hours. So there was this excess capacity in that you couldn't buy it in the way that you actually consumed it. And it was this economic window that made Zipcar able to get going. And so there was a real economic opportunity here. The next thing we did is that we built a platform for participation. If you think about how you rent a car today, and I can't believe that this is still happening 13 years after we proved that it was a stupid idea, you know, you go there and you stand in the long line and it takes you, then they give you the key and then you walk out to the parking lot and then you walk around together and it's this big long thing, like it takes forever. What I knew when we did Zipcar is that there was no way that I was going to couldn't offer, you wouldn't rent a car for an hour if it was going to take you 20 minutes to get one, and I was no way going to rent you a car for an hour if it was going to have this big transaction cost. So it was thanks to the internet and technology that we could make that transaction cost really simple, and so it's really the internet that enables us to share things really easily because it's completely taken the effort of transaction costs out of it. So we built this platform that made you able to rent a car in just 30 seconds. And then the last key piece is that we brought our customers onto our side of the counter. You know, they were, I have written here, you know, we thought of them as collaborators and co-creators. They were the ones that we trusted. You know, we let them choose the exact precise car they were going to rent. They were going to look around the car and see if there was anything broken. They were going to fill it with gas, with our fleet card, and if they did something wrong, they were going to tell us. And as I was building this company, we would ask people for help all the time. You know, what do you think about the reservation system? What do you think we should call the cars? Where are some good parking spaces? You know, who do you know that we should talk to? So we really saw them as our collaborators, and I used to talk to them very, I'd say, intimately about our struggle and path forward to build a great company. And if we think about where we are today, 13 years later, this idea of us as not consumers, but producers and collaborators is really pervasive. But Zipcar was an early pioneer. I found this cartoon that I'm quite amused by. So here we are, Moses coming down from the mountain. And is there a section for comments? I mean, that's how transformed we are, right? We are all producers. So summing these points up, the 3 building blocks of a peers incorporated organizational structure, this new organizational structure that's made possible because of the internet, is that you have peer collaborators and a platform for participation, and all I think of in the sea of excess capacity. And to tell you, if you look at these companies that everyone has been talking about for the last 10 years, these are peer incorporated companies. So, you know, all of these, it's these big companies making a platform and me adding my stuff, my excess capacity on top. I mean, I actually love all of these. But if you think of Skype, Skype built a telecommunications company on the back of what? My internet connection, my laptop, my video camera. They didn't have to lay any, any cable. They didn't have to buy any infrastructure, maybe some servers. But they built a telecommunications company in short order, like 5 years. They had done a really big job. You know, Wikipedia, my knowledge, and what is the excess capacity is my friend Clay Shirky. He calls it I think he calls it excess mental capacity or something. He's got a nicer term, which is what Wikipedia is. And so, you know, YouTube, my brilliant video put up there, and maybe no one will watch it, or maybe many. There's a website you have to go find that is never seen YouTube videos, and you think you didn't even get it up. You know, like, you don't even see it once yourself. So these are peer incorporated companies. I want to share with you an example that I really love to help describe what's the power of these companies. So think about sharing, which is what I think about a lot, and put into your mind now bed sharing. Okay, are you focused now? Bed sharing, you got it? When I come to a place like Austin, where do I want to stay? I actually want to stay at a friend's house, and they might have a spare bedroom. And if I'm lucky, I have a friend in Austin. I used to actually, Zipcar's longest employee ever lived in Austin for many years as an engineer, and I would stay with him. And I could have a room like this. Or, if I'm extra lucky, I might have a double bed. That would be really great bed sharing. If I'm unlucky, the teenager got booted, I have to sleep in those dirty sheets, it's kind of scummy. And this is really why hotels were invented. And so hotels are, in fact, bed sharing. And if you think about a hotel, you know, it has to, just like Zipcar, it has to get a return on investment over that 7-day week and make sure things are going well. So I went online and I did some research to say, okay, what is the largest hotel in the world? What's the largest bed sharing in the world? And it turns out it's the Intercontinental Hotel Group. They've been around 60 years. They've made $650 1,000 rooms in 100 countries. And I just want to pause and for us to reflect on the effort that it took to be that #1. And note that Hilton has been at it for 93 years and didn't make it. So if you're going to be the head of the king of hotels, you have to go find a location. You have to choose a city. You find a location. You have to go get an architect. He does the drawings. You have to get all the permits. Then you have to go build the hotel. Then you have to staff it. You have to get all the stuff, you know, all the beds and the bedside tables in it. Then you have to hope that people actually want to stay, and you hope there's no hurricanes that are going to, you know, crush it or wash it away. You have to choose well, and a whole bunch of those hotels, we can know over those 60 years have failed, and other ones, 4,400 of those hotels have succeeded. But it was this massive, massive, brutal effort. So some of you in this audience are knowing what I'm going to say next. So there's Airbnb, which lets me put my spare bedroom and my house online. And after 4 years, they had 650,000 rooms in 192 countries. And this is where I do my "can you believe it" dance. Like, it's a phenomenal thing that's happened here. Like, what in heck? If you're hotels, like, how did that happen? It is this incredible, incredible pace of growth that is possible. And I have to, of course, mention couch surfing, where you can stay without paying, and after 9 years, 2,500 couches that I can put my body on in 207 countries. So this new business model, this new way of doing business is incredibly disruptive, is changing everything, and it has some great opportunities for us. So what in heck is going on? Let's look a little bit deeper. So I look at this and I think, what did industrialization show us? Industrialization, which is all about building a company absolutely as big as you can. You want to reduce those transaction costs. You want to get as big as possible, and everyone is inside you as the company. And what do companies do really well? They make large investments over many, many years. No individual can do that. They do things that require lots of different kinds of intelligence. You know, me and my 2 friends, we can only have a certain amount of expertise, but companies, they can get a huge amount of expertise altogether to do really complicated things. They can apply standards and standard contracts. And this is kind of all bound up in a brand promise. If we think about Airbnb, it's not like 650,000 bed and breakfasts, right? We communicate, each one of those people, those guests, potential guests, are communicating in the same way to Airbnb. They're expecting the same standards. There's the $50,000 whatever insurance. So there's a standard and expectation, the payment we can understand. So this is what companies and institutions and governments do really well. But it turns out that individuals do some things really, really well too. And these things that individuals do are really expensive for big companies to do. And so individuals, if you want to do really small things, that's for us. If you want to do things that are local, customized, specialized, that's what we do really, really well. And it also turns out that we do things we're very creative and innovative, because if we think about a company, their idea is we do the exact same thing the exact same way every time, whereas individuals are iterating and doing many different ways of things, and they can produce things better. So again, going back to the Airbnb example, the place that I'm staying at now, the Marriott Courtyard, they've decided what the price-value ratio that I, Robin Chase, want to have when I stay in a hotel. But in Airbnb, where my husband is going tomorrow night, because I won't be here, he could look at the types of rooms that were for offer in Austin, and he could decide that actually he wanted to stay in the place that had bikes free, so he could ride to this conference tomorrow. And he didn't want the big flat screen TV and the 7 pillows on the bed that he's getting at the Courtyard Marriott. So, you know, you really, with this model, we can capitalize on what individuals do best. So it turns out, of course, that when we put these 2 things together, they actually dovetail really, really nicely. And each side is complementing the other when we make them when they collaborate. And so it's this collaboration that I'm calling Peers Incorporated. So this is a kind of complicated chart. If we think about what the incorporated side, how is it bundling all of its complex talents and its multi-million-dollar investments? It puts it onto this platform for participation. And what do the individuals bring? They bring this incredible diversity of offering. And so to kind of simplify, I see this as this kind of symbiotic relationship. Each side has to play nice, that Facebook, for example, if they try to monetize too much and use up too much of sell too many advertisements to me and sell my data, I'm going to stop wanting to play. Whereas if we think of ride sharing for many years, the people who are sharing those, who are taking advantage of the platform for participation with ride sharing were really pissed off and didn't want to pay the platform creators any money, so it was really hard to develop great platforms. So you really have this relationship where each side has to give a little, so it makes it interesting for the other side to play. And then because I had my hippie yin-yang here, I want to say it's all swimming in the sea of excess capacity. And I feel like the excess capacity is just permeating the whole thing. And if you took that ball and you crushed it like a sponge, it's just excess capacity that's flowing out. And I'll talk a little bit more about excess capacity. So if we look at this incorporated side, they build the platform for participation. And what does a platform do? A platform, by its platformness, delivers scale economies and economies of scale and this incredibly high growth, because that's what a platform is made to do. If we think about, you get the platform right, it's really, really hard to get a platform right, but once you get it right, you can grow really fast, because you don't have to do things serially like the old-fashioned hotels had to do, and you don't even do things in parallel. You do it in this big, giant clump, boom, everyone joins up at the same time. So let me show you some growth curves. Here, Airbnb, it's like phenomenal. As I've been talking about this, I've had to switch out my slides 2 times because their curve is going up so deep. And you can see at the place where it looks like nothing is happening, that's how long it takes to get the platform right. Like, it's really hard to get a platform going. And there's many who will fail because they're making a platform for participation in which no one wants to participate, or which isn't good. But so here is this growth curve. BlaBlaCar is one of the largest ride-sharing companies in the world, and so what is the excess capacity? It's you taking your trip and the 3 other seats to the side, and they have been doing phenomenally well. They're based in France, but they've been doing a lot of work throughout Europe. Etsy, a marketplace for selling things that individuals make, and you can see they've been having phenomenal growth, and I know that 2013 for them is doing really well. Fiverr, so it's not just, I think Fiverr is like the lowest common denominator. Fiverr is what would you do for $5? And if you're looking for a great birthday present for someone and to do some really low-cost marketing, go look at Fiverr. And you can see here, after 3 years, they have 2.5 million gigs, they call them, out there. And it's not just simple things, there's also hard things. Topcoder is a very large design and engineering firm, and they do work for Google and for Facebook. And here they have 400,000 engineers that are participating and making up the Topcoder community. So all autonomous individuals. And another, just to get you thinking in other realms, I think of smartphones and as the platform for participation, and all of those apps are the peer participants. Because I bought my $600 phone to make phone calls, and now I can have this huge amount of innovation that can go on top. And many of those apps, as we know, would never, ever, ever merit $600. My favorite, most useless app ever is one called Hold the Button. And Hold the Button is, you hold the button and see how long you can do it for. So, there are some really, really dumb apps out there. That would be excellent for the 3-year-old in the back seat. But, and then there's some really brilliant apps. And there's these, there's that famous sentence by Bill Joy of Sun that, no matter how many smart people are in the room, we know that there are many, many, many obviously smarter people outside of this room. And so that's what this peers incorporated business model is letting us do, is it's letting us tap into those tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people who are outside the room. They can now participate and bring their ingenuity to bear. So if we look at the peers part, what is the peers? What do they do? They're bringing this incredible diversity. And with diversity, what we definitely get is this innovation. And also, really important, resilience and redundancy. If we think about the old model with big, giant companies, and we talk about too big to fail, these peers incorporated organizational structures aren't too big to fail, right? Because if the guy with the Airbnb bedroom is deciding he doesn't want to do it anymore, who cares? There's another one. So there's this incredible resilience. And then just, oh wait, I think I talk here about, I want to talk about the excess capacity. What I also really love about the excess capacity as a foundation is that we are really, the economics of things completely change. If any of you are entrepreneurs, you really want to go look at this excess capacity because it was been bought by someone else, and you are getting the extras. Let me give you an example just now. So the company that I founded in France called Buzzcar is peer-to-peer car sharing. So it's you renting out your car to other people. What I learned with doing Zipcar is that people would always say to me, why didn't Zipcar put a car downstairs in my apartment building or in my neighborhood or in my city? And the reason would be because Zipcar couldn't be assured of getting a return on investment. When we do Buzzcar, because it's someone else's car, they've already paid for it. They bought it to use themselves, and we're leveraging their excess capacity, their idle capacity. So Buzzcar today has, I think, 7,000 cars across France, and many of them are in locations where you would never see a car rental company, and definitely not a traditional car sharing company. And it's because we don't care if someone never rents the car in a year. Honestly, who cares? If they rent it once a year, the owner is thinking, great. If they're renting it once a month, better yet. And if they're renting it 3 times a week, yeah. But the asset was bought for a different purpose. So looking at this excess capacity is really important. So Buzzcar. Here are pictures of our drivers, the owners and their cars. And I love this set of pictures. And what's great about them is the diversity. So there are handsome ones. The cars come with different price points and different types of cars. They're parked all over. And really cool guys, really uncool guys, hipster guys, happy guys, and lovely Selma. So it's really this joy that what diversity can bring for you. So some stories from Buzzcar is that a friend rented a car to go to an island off the coast of France, and when she picked up the car, the woman whose car it was says, oh, you're going to Ile de Ré. Well, this side of the island has these really steep cliffs. It's really beautiful. This side has all these beaches, and this beach has got the best fish restaurant. You're not going to get that from Zipcar or from a car rental company. Another time, a person in Paris wanted to get a car with 2 baby seats in the back, and we had cars with 2 baby seats in the back, because you can have this incredible diversity of offering. And so again, I talked briefly about how apps is another example of these platforms for participation, and just the diversity and wealth of what has been thought up over, I think it's 4 years now, 4.5 years since the smartphone was developed, 1.5 million apps between the iPhone and the Android. And if we think about that as a pace of innovation, I don't think there's been anything like it since humans were created. That pace of innovation, 1.5 million new novel ideas in such a short period of time. And then there's the whole open data movement. I want you to think about excess capacity in a really wide range. So the open data movement would be, and like opendata.gov, I think it's called, and we think of to transport metro systems opening up their data points. So they collected the data for themselves, and they thought of a good use for it. And then they've opened it up with open APIs and are saying, hey, you smart guys out there, can you find any more value in this data? So this working with excess capacity, there's 3 different ways we can get at value. One is what Zipcar did, which is take this asset that normally you have to buy in big chunks, and they make it available in little ways. And so all that excess that was unused, you take out. The other way to get at this excess capacity is to aggregate small parts and make them useful. And the third way is to open it up and let other people think of what new value they can extract from it. So I think of this excess capacity as really a path towards abundance. And so think about it in temporal terms, in your networks, your expertise, and not just physical assets, although from a sustainability aspect, of course, it's really important. So back to Brandy. So when he says you can't solve exponential problems with linear solutions, my optimism is, yeah, you know what? Try Peers Incorporated. It's got all these characteristics that we really, really want. It's got this high growth. It can scale. It's got the resilience and redundancy we need to address these massive, massive problems. And it's got this excess capacity where we're using resources incredibly efficiently. I noted here that I just launched, if launch is the word, I just put up a week ago, a website called peersincorporated.com, and it's just this case studies of different companies that are doing this. It's brand new, and if you guys are doing that kind of company, I encourage you to add your company as a case study, and I will start collecting these, and it's happening in every single sector. So I want to give you some examples of this as applied to what we're here talking about. So this is the Global Forest Watch, and it's an effort by the World Resources Institute, and I'm incredibly impressed by it. So what they have done is they're using satellite data and land use records, and they're putting it all onto a platform for participation so that individuals and local companies can see what the deforestation is happening in real time, and then go do something locally. So as an example, this is Chief Almir, I think I can tell you his name, and he's in Brazil. And so he's in this little circle here at the edge of the Amazon. And I have to admit, this is a new story for me. And so if we zoom in, so the indigenous tribes, their land is protected. So if you look at this photo here, under Global Forest Watch, you can see this nice green place. The rest is all deforested. And when you put on the filter layer of land use, that little blue shading is to say this is protected areas. And so that kind of trapezoid in the middle is the Sarui tribe's homeland. And I'm going to go through a time series so you can put an alert on a piece of land. And you can see, so here they are, they're putting the alert on. And then I'm going to click through, and this is every 3 months another, because we're going to look over 10 years, and 10 years is, we're going to do it more quickly. And so you can see the deforestation that is happening over this 10-year period. And these are 3 or 4 month slices. And so this is what, if you were putting an alert on, you would be able to see the deforestation that's happening right around you and where it is. So you can see that some of it is going right into this Sarui tribe's lands. It's kind of horrifying. So let's zoom in onto his land, onto this tribe's land, and then we can look in really closely. So that is on this land. And we can see that this is what it looked like 10 years ago, and this is what it's looking like today. And this tool is giving them this ability to be able to tell to law enforcement and government that's not paying attention, look, here's the satellite data, and you can see, here's where I am, and they can show this exact data. If we think about why the Peers Incorporated for me is so powerful, is it's giving the power of the corporation to individuals. So it's giving the power of NASA satellites and this land use overlay that's been put together by WRI, handing it to this chief of this tribe in the Amazon. Like, that is incredibly powerful. And so what he can do is, and this, I admit, we switched landscapes here, but he can go in there and he can tag and say, you know what, I'm living here, and this is what happened, and it was this particular logger who did it, or I'm arguing with this person, and I've been taking it up with so-and-so. And so he can now create an alert. He can now put his layer in so that NGOs and himself, that we can have this very large and robust, from a data standpoint, record of what's happening. And so this is what they've been mapping over the last year, and this is going to be coming live, I think, in the next month or two, and I think they have a session later today if you want to know more about it. For me, this is an example of a really powerful platform for participation that any one of those individuals would never, ever be able to do. So another example of a Peers Incorporated company is 350.org. If we think about what 350 has been doing, many of their campaigns have been to say, you know, this particular campaign, which it was, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, which is you guys in your own localities think about what beautiful image you want to project, and then we will take this to the worldwide press, all your beautiful images around the world. And so these are some of the images from there. And their divestment program is the same idea, that it's got to be something that's happening very, very locally. So they're taking the power of them with the idea and their bigger PR platform, and here's how to approach it. And they're using students and local cities and towns to push onto the universities and get them to divest. And here in 5 years, 350.org has done 20,000 events around the world, 50,000 crowdsourced climate action photos, and 188,000 active groups of countries. So just think in 5 years, because of this Peers Incorporated model, they've been able to get this huge number of people joining and active and doing things that are very, very local and very, very customized and very specific to all these different regions. And a last example I want to give is there's something called the Acumen Fund. And they are a kind of, let's say, they used to a kind of regular, and they do great work, NGO around issues of poverty. And then last year, they launched this thing called Acumen Plus. And the reason they launched Acumen Plus is they thought, wow, all these people who are participants with us, they actually have a lot of excess capacity. They want to do a lot more, and we're not giving, besides just giving us money, they actually want to act and do more for us. So what they did is, starting in February, they started offering up courses. And so they offered up 4 courses, and since February, almost 20,000 people have signed up to take their courses, which are around doing social action in their local places. Here's some pictures of people from around the world. And what really struck me when I was reading about this, and I just happened to get the email, and I thought, wow, this is a great Peers Incorporated company, is that to sign up for the coursework, you have to sign up in teams of 2 to 6 people. And because you're working in a team in your own local community, you actually listen to the course. You meet every week, and so you actually listen to the lectures. You actually have to do the homework because you're working with your peers, and you choose your own specific project that's local to you. So they've worked in this community way, using this platform for participation to get 19,500 people activated. And they told me that they're starting to see some early companies coming out of this already. So Tim DeChristopher, I don't know if you guys know him. He is one of the first people that's done some civil disobedience around climate change, and he went to jail for 2 years. A couple of weeks ago, I was listening to him, and he had this great sentence. You know, we're on track for such rapid and intense change, we might as well steer towards the world we want to see. And I thought, wow, that is a really, really nice thing. We are on the path for such rapid change. We should steer that way. So I want to leave you with 3 things that I think every one of you can and should be doing in your daily lives and your daily work. And some of you will be lucky enough to be doing all 3. But if we want to build the sustainable world that we want to live in, we should be all exploiting excess capacity in all of our work. We've got to really maximize not only physical resources, which is incredibly important, but also the skill and the expertise and the innovation resources that are out there that are sitting idle and bored because they don't have a great thing to go to apply it to. So 1, exploit excess capacity. 2, this is a new words for me. I think we really have to work hard on building community muscle. That I've had some back pain, and so I've been doing some exercises. And you know, they're always talking about, you know, muscle memory, and I'm finally figuring out what muscle memory is when I do a certain move, I think, whoa, this is like my exercise, and I do it the right way. We need to build community muscle memory. And the future ahead is so hard. This is something we really, really have to do, is build this community muscle memory. So if you are doing any kind of work that's building communities, that's fabulous, because you're contributing to this building of community muscle memory. And then the last thing is, if you're doing something that is great and successful, make sure to turn it into a platform for participation so that it can scale and grow as fast as possible. We need these solutions absolutely now. I'm going to leave some time for Q&A, and I guess the one I want to circle back around to something horrible. The IPCC report came out a week and a half ago. And part of what they've been talking about is our carbon budget. And so we have a carbon budget that is 30 years until, if we keep doing what we're doing, we have 30 years till we've used up our carbon budget. And if you add in other gases that aren't fossil fuel, like methane, other greenhouse gases, we actually have 20 years until we've used up our carbon budget. And used it up, and then what happens? What these budgets are saying is that if we want to have a 50-50 chance of getting to 2 degrees, stopping at 2 degrees, that's what we have to do. Plus 2 degrees is already catastrophic, and we're only going for 50-50 chance if we decarbonize in 20 years. So I want to go back to the sense of urgency. You should all feel, we should feel, every day I wake up, I feel this incredible urgency. We have to get going. So I'm going to leave 10 minutes for questions. Do you guys have any questions? Please come up. And I'm hoping you do. I was told that you were a really great audience. And let's see. I don't even know where the microphones are. OK. Do we have any questions? Oh, man. Here's one.
If you were the CEO of a Fortune 50 company today, how would you leverage this community action or participation within your company? Say excess sales capacity or production capacity or whatever. How do you do that in a competitive environment?
Two answers. One is if you don't, I'm quite sure that you will be going downhill and your lunch will be eaten up. So I've been talking to business leaders and advising them. This idea of excess capacity, I think they have to look, to remain competitive, companies need to look at what they uniquely do and then stick to that and make sure they give other people, the peers, the opportunity. So I was talking to Procter & Gamble just at a conference like this. I wasn't consulting with them. And I thought, OK, I bet you guys have some incredible test kitchens. And there are so many startups and entrepreneurs that need to have this fancy test kitchen with all the fancy stuff. You should be letting them in there. And then you will be doing some innovation. A lot of the car manufacturers all have now their own venture funds where they're doing, I think of them as test cases. I've been encouraging the car community to open up its data sets, which they absolutely have to do, and they haven't been opening up their data so that their data sets and the in-car make open APIs. The city of San Francisco is doing some really brilliant work around innovation. They've been looking at their own physical assets, and they've been saying to the community, you know what, I don't know, these particular buildings and these parks that we own are underused. What do you guys in the community think that we should be doing with it? Because they have this underuse. When we build buildings, things like the US government, it drives me crazy around things like all of those brand new schools that have the gym that's used the nice auditorium that's used 2 days a year that's buried in, and so no one can ever go use those auditoriums because of security reasons, and they have to walk through the whole school. But think of all the physical assets that can be opened up. So companies and governments need to be doing inventories and thinking, what do we have hanging around? I was talking to someone from Cisco. They have a whole bunch of equipment that's the scientific research equipment, and they have been making a catalog of that research equipment. So at least within Cisco themselves, they can share it, because before it's just been tucked away in labs. So there's this real, and I just met a guy last week, who he has his engineers building systems for his use in-house, and he is now making sure that every time they build something in-house, it's something he can actually sell out as well. So it's a service for other people. So there's a lot of opportunities. Any other questions? Yeah.
Hi, thank you, Robin. My name is Brandy Klark Burton. I'm with the Austin Eco Network, and my entire career has been kind of following types of things you've been doing, finding excess capacity and exploiting that, whether it's yard space for gardens or starting car sharing in Austin or other things like that. Right now, the Eco Network, my question is about number 3 on your list, how to take something that seems like it could be useful to other people and getting it out there when I don't have the corporate sort of background to leverage or expand or that sort of thing. What do you recommend to someone who's like grassroots and ready to maybe grow?
So I guess just before you put away that microphone, I'm just trying to understand, are you saying that you want to spread your precise operational process, or you want to spread your good ideas?
Either one. I mean, the Eco Network has become a community hub for all things green in Austin, and that model is serving us locally. And I know other places have been calling us and saying we're interested in a, Nashville Eco Network or a Houston Eco Network, that kind of thing.
So you hit an idea that's really dear to my heart. It's something that, if I'm speaking to the entrepreneurs out there, don't do too many things at once, which is what I'm doing, because you have to focus. But one of the things that I'm really yearning to do is create a website in a company called doable.com, which would be a series of cases of examples like yours that would be searchable and taggable in the way that individual actors want them. Because, as you're saying, so, and upstairs I was in another panel session where people are throwing out, wow, there's this great thing this city's doing, a great thing this city's doing. And the real shame is, how do those cities find each other? So I think that there needs to be a place that's not Google, where you can say, who are the actors? What's the timeline? What's the budget? What's the population density? And what are the solutions that fit within those parameters? So I think that's a missing piece. And then if we think about you specifically, you going out to conferences or networking with your peers, you can find, I think that is going to be the mechanism by which you see what is it that we can share. Do we want to create one national thing? Do we want to be consultants? Is there some technology that we could spread? One of the things, when I think about these platforms for participation that they deliver, is incredibly economies of scale, because once you built it once, then everyone else can use it. And so there's been some, I think, there was an effort called the Civic Commons that was trying to do that with open source government stuff that just got folded into Code for America. But it's all of these things, how can we build it once and leverage it? The other questions? Yeah.
Yes, thank you for your talk and for all the good work that you're doing for our people and our planet. One thing I noticed is that you mentioned most of the talk is in the sharing economy is based off individual actions. Well, I'm really kind of skeptical that that can actually really help us overcome the global challenges we face, particularly with climate change, particularly in areas that will be most vulnerable, being low-income areas throughout the world. So what type of collective action and political action would you, or are you working around, or would you suggest as being also working alongside our individual actions through these types of sharing economies?
I took out a slide that I could have put in, which is all of us can and should be, role modeling in your day-to-day life. If you think about leadership, you as an individual are leaders to your neighbors, to your kids, to your friends. And when you buy the gas-guzzling the car, when you aren't taking the subway, when you are too lazy to get on your bike, you aren't modeling the right way. When you have a house that you're keeping at 65 in the winter and you have to come over for dinner and they have to wear a sweater, you're saying something to them. So you as an individual should be role modeling actions. The second piece, of course, is within your own companies. Within your own companies, are you taking a stand on these issues and forcing these things to be happening? And the third, of course, is political action. And we should all be fighting and expressing that this is a really, really, really high priority for us, which I'm hoping it is. But I do want to disagree with your premise, because for me, this organizational structure, I honestly believe, is the only way we're going to meet the scale and the speed that happens. And so that's why I was showing all those growth charts. I think if we think of these actions like cogeneration or solar roofs or something, right now it's really complicated. If I want to put solar panels on my house, I have to get my husband to do all the research and figure out what's the right method, and he has to go find the right suppliers, and he has to get the right tax things, and he has to do all this big thing. And then there's companies like One Block Off the Grid that is trying to simplify that complex process, that's going to come to me and say, hey, Robin, you have a south-facing roof. We figured out in your location, here's 5 guys who can sell it to you really quickly, one-stop shopping, done. So I think that, for me, is really the only way we're going to scale. I don't see any individual actor managing what needs to be done. I really only see it happening on this platform scale. Another question?
Yeah, hi. My name's Lisa Madry, and I'm with the National Wildlife Federation. And I have a question for you about the growth charts that you were describing, where they're really flat in the first few years and then accelerate. And we're in the midst of launching an online community for student environmental leaders. And we, of course, wanted to scale really quickly and have the tens and hundreds of thousands of users, participants right at the start. But I almost heard you sort of almost advise against that, and I would wonder if you have advice on how to accelerate that, or if you even think you should, be patient.
Don't we all want that? So my best example is Google Video versus YouTube. Why would YouTube, startup by 2 guys, beat out Google Video, who even at that time was a really big company? And it's because YouTube's platform was better than Google Videos. You could upload more form factors of videos up onto YouTube than on Google Videos, so it was accepting of more types of people. I know that to be true. And then the other thing I speculate is that, you know, the share button was a little bit to the right and yellow. Like, we know that the UI is a phenomenally important thing. And there was this great debriefing of the Obama election campaign called Inside the Cave, and you see them doing A/B testing, and it's like an order of magnitude 10 times of the wrong versus the right little UI tweak. So A, getting the platform right is really important, and B, going to my business self, does the dog want to eat the dog food? Are you creating something that people want to do? And so when I look at GoLoco, which is a ride-sharing company I started in the US 6 years ago, I did everything I could to make it happen, and the dogs did not want to eat the dog food. People in the United States did not want to share rides. And in the 6 years since then, no one's succeeded at it. I think in the future, it will happen. It'll be a common thing that they weren't ready. So, wow, and there's no secret sauce. Hard work. One last question, and then I want to have some closing slides. Yeah?
I just had a quick question. My name is Michael Quirk. I'm the co-founder and web developer of ClimateChangeNationalForum.org, founded with a state climatologist here in Texas. And we fit your model, and there might be other organizations that fit your model, and I was online trying to find out where you register for a case study, and I was just wondering if you could give me a source for that.
I haven't made it yet.
Okay, so
no.
All right, well, I'll be waiting for that. Thank you.
I know, it's breaking my heart, so doable. Just keep that in your mind. I'm meeting with the World Bank tomorrow, and I'm hoping that we can get some financing. Okay, so right now, I'm trying something really new, and you guys have to give me some slack. So I actually want the house lights up, and I want you guys all to stand up. This is your moment. I've got my platform here for participation, and I want to create some community feelings going on here, okay? So this is a first for me. Everyone assume this position. Okay, ready? On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Together we will. Come on, you guys. Wait, that was slightly lame. You're gonna get another chance. Okay, you ready? Another chance. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she said, you know what? Together we will makes it seem like it's the future. But in fact, are you ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Together we are! Yay! Go, team, go.